having put on town halls here at Fox, they do not cost $1 million for an hour of television. You got fleeced by Oprah Winfrey.
Oh.
So Oprah, for the first time in her life, decided to endorse a candidate, decided to go to a convention, decided to give that big speech, and then you find out that this billionaire made them pay $1 million. So you have all of these small donors who are building a set for Oprah? First time in her life, decided to endorse a candidate, decided to go to a convention, decided to give that big speech, and then you find out that this billionaire made them pay $1 million. Cat lovers for Biden. And then you get to somebody like Oprah. I think this is astounding. So Oprah, for the first time in her life, decided to endorse a candidate, decided to go to a convention, decided to give that big speech, and then you find out that this billionaire made them pay $1 million.
That is crazy. Working for that $1 million. So this entire time we saw Oprah looking like she really has Kamala Harris back.
Looks like we've got another mystery on our hands.
So you have all of these small donors who are building a set for Oprah for an interview that didn't get them anywhere down the field.
No way.
It's absolutely appalling. And I do think that the Democrats, having looked at it over the weekend, I was getting sick of it. They're just overthinking it and underthinking it, and they're overlooking the obvious. 20 years of bad policy positions in the Democratic Party led to this moment where they said that they were going to go middle of the road. That's what Joe Biden said. It's not what they did. And Ron Klain gave them progressives everything that they wanted, the Inflation Reduction Act. You had Larry Summers saying, guys, that's going to cause inflation. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, economists from the left. You have no idea. That's who that was. It wasn't like Larry Kudlow saying it, although he was saying it too. So then they get what they were asking for, and then they want to blame the podcasts.
Sims.
It is really incredible. And I'm here to watch all of it, of course. It's fine for me to sit there and do that. But I would end on this. 60 Minutes had this interview last night with Scott Pelley asking people who had voted Democrat for many, many years, who then switched and voted for Trump this year. And one of them owned a diner. And the question was, what was happening for you? Because the economy, it was improving. Inflation is down, and that wasn't enough for you? And she's like, yeah, we didn't feel that at all.
Oh, yes, you do.
Sims.
And to me, that's just why they're overthinking it. Like, this is what it was. And the voters were telling us this for 3 years.
What are your friends telling you, Jessica?
I'm sad. Cry emoji. My emoji game, it's been relegated to one little aspect of the board the last few days. I have had some great exchanges with your mother, though. I'll tell you about those in the break.
Oh, please don't.
The autopsy continues. And there are many facets to it. The fundamental principle of it, or the backbone of it, is we're supposed to represent the working class, and we didn't in this election. They told us resoundingly, you don't represent my interests this time around. And that wasn't the way it was supposed to go when you looked at measures like who people think represents folks like me. Kamala was doing better than Donald Trump on that. So obviously there was some kind of disconnect. And I do think that there were policy issues, but I think there was more of a tone issue than anything. There was a voter talking about how she thinks about the two parties and needed to give a word to describe each. And she called the GOP crazy. And she called the Democrats preachy.
And the first thing to do is find Mr. Sims.
Yeah.
And she said that preachy actually made her feel bad about herself. And this is a theme that we're hearing over and over again. And that's what Maher was communicating in his remarks. I've spent some time looking at races that were successful, Democratic races. And we should note, Dems managed to hold 4 of 5 swing Senate seats. Like Jackie Rosen got 70,000 votes that Kamala Harris didn't get. That's pretty astounding in this kind of environment. But Pat Ryan, who's an upstate New York congressman, I think he won by 13 points. And he talked about what he did. And he said, basically, I ran without labels. I campaigned with AOC when it made sense to be with AOC, who, by the way, has a huge crossover with Trump in her district, where people say, basically, you fight for people like me. I don't care what your party, your political party is for this. And I think we could learn a lot from that. In terms of the media ecosystem, I do think this issue is important, not only as part of the media, but to consider the fact that the podcasts and the alternative media that got Republicans or Trump the most juice were not politics programming, and that people turn into a politics show when they're in a certain kind of mood. I happen to be in that mood all the time. So I want to go out and go for a walk and listen to Pod Save America or whatever, but most people find politics stressful, and they find it grating and adversarial, and they want to hear about wellness, they want to hear about comedy, hear from someone who's doing something interesting, thinking about the world in a different way. And that's why Rogan pops to them, because it didn't originate as a politics podcast. And that is it feels as though that's the only authentic way in with people now, that you have to have the host come to their politics naturally, right? Like Rogan used to love Bernie. Now he's red-pilled. And people went on that road with him. And we need to do that too.
Judge Jeanine Pirro, what are your thoughts?
Well, when I heard Ro Khanna, I should say, and Bernie Sanders and Bill Maher and the whole lot of them about, just saying we didn't listen to the people, we didn't, put enough stock into what the working people needed. Woke is broke and all that other stuff. Fareed Zakaria now saying it was chaos at the border.
To bend rules and norms when it suited their purposes. It's worth noting that in this week's election, a CNN exit poll found that among those who believe that democracy in the U.S. is threatened, a majority supported Trump. Lawfare turned Trump from being a loser into a victim. And as his indictments grew, his campaign contributions surged and his poll numbers solidified. The final error is a more diffuse one, the dominance of identity politics on the left, which made it push for all kinds of DEI policies that largely came out of the urban academic bubble, but alienated many mainstream voters. There's an irony in claiming to be pro-Latino by insisting that people use the term Latinx, only to discover that Latinos themselves think the word is weird. This kind of obsession made Democrats view people too much through their ethnic or racial or gender identity, and it made them miss, for example, that working-class Latinos were moving toward Trump perhaps because they were socially conservative, or liked his macho rhetoric, or even agreed with his hardline stance on immigration. One of Trump's most effective ads on trans issues had a tagline.
Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you.
And Charlemagne the God. Why weren't they saying this stuff during the election?
He's convicted of 34 of them, led an attempted coup in this country. He tells people how much of a fascist he plans to be. He shouldn't be anywhere near the White House. But the media keeps acting like it's a normal candidacy. And they make these false equivalencies between you two. What do you think of the double standard? And is it frustrating for people to say you're not fit for office, but he is?
I can't let frustration get in the way of doing what I need to do right now, which is reminding people of exactly what you said. I do believe he is a threat to our democracy. I do believe he is unfit, and I believe he's unstable. And I think many people believe that. So my job and my responsibility is to do what I've been doing, having rallies where thousands of people show up, where they're taking time out of their busy lives so I can help let them know that we are all in this together, that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us, and that part of being engaged right now is about building community, building coalition, and speaking out against what we see clearly. This is the thing I love about the American people. Don't ever underestimate the American people in terms of their intelligence. People can see what's going on. And I do believe and have faith that people are going to vote based on what they know is going on and what they would prefer to have in terms of, one, turning the page on that mess and really charting a new way forward. I believe
This
that.
did not age too well. Turning the page. It looks like the page was turned on her. And this new way forward, that new way forward was without her.
During the election. If they can figure it out 2 days later, why couldn't they have said it during the election? Everybody knows, you don't have to be a genius, that working people were hurting. that wages were not keeping up with inflation, that food was off the charts, that people were hurting, living paycheck to paycheck, the country's going in the wrong direction. And these fools actually say, when someone says we got to keep a boy out of girls' sports, and some guy has a breakdown that we just saw and says, no, that's a trans girl or whatever it is, that's not America. America does not buy that nonsense. It just doesn't. All right. The only one who made sense was Raging Cajun. And he's a little kooky, but he knew it all along. It was the preachy females. You're not paying enough focus to the men. He had it down pat. And this Lindy Lou, what's her name? Lindy Lee with the pink dress? Give me a break. I was told by Jen O'Malley Dillon that Kamala was going to win. Are you stupid? Do you go into a casino and say, I was told I was going to win here?
Sims.
How different is a campaign from a casino?
Sims.
Toss. I mean, really. And then she says she blames somebody else.
Mr. Sims.
And this whole thing about Oprah, a billionaire taking $1 million.
Mr. Sims.
Dana, I was furious. The people who wrote a $25 check for Call Your Daddy podcast to set up some kind of a stage. Donald Trump can get into a dump truck and not spend a dime and get more hits than they do. Yep. And finally, how genuine was the support of the celebrities who needed money in order to say something? Did they even vote? I'd be curious to know whether they even bothered to vote.
Well, I think we all speak from experience as having put on town halls here at Fox. They do not cost $1 million for an hour of television. You got fleeced by Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, that's cool.
Damn! Put your glasses back on.
Oh, Ozempic costs a lot. You don't get it on your insurance.
No, I thought it was Weight Watchers.
No, remember.
Oh, yeah.
She cheated.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new sheriff in town. Democrats are already sweating bullets over Trump's new mass deportation.
ICE director reacting on something called Fox and...
Oh, toss. I mean, really. And then she says she blames somebody else. And this whole thing about Oprah, a billionaire taking $1 million. Dana, I was furious. The people who wrote a $25 check for Call Your Daddy podcast to set up some kind of a stage. Donald Trump can get into a dump truck and not spend a dime and get more hits than they do. Yep. And finally, how genuine was the support of the celebrities who needed money in order to say something? Did they even vote? I'd be curious to know whether they even bothered to vote.